Sir, you're being detained for unlawfully entering your own land. That's what the officer nearly said until I presented my property deed. This Karen had been raking havoc on our Lake Serenity community for months, dialing law enforcement on anyone who dared to live without her approval. She warned she'd sue me for 50 years Salozan, submitted fake police reports, and even attempted to bribe local officials to force me off my own property. Here's the twist. She had no clue I was the landlord of the 800,000 mansion she was leasing. Imagine dawn glowing over Lake Serenity, pine scent blending with morning fog. Suddenly, police lights flash across my grandfather's vintage cabin. Tires grind on gravel as two patrol cars roll in. There's Brenda Carmichael, perched on her mansion's balcony in a vivid pink robe, gesturing at me like I'm a criminal mastermind. What would you do if someone called the cops on you for fishing on your own land? Share below. Where are you tuning in from? I bet many of you have your own HOA horror tales. I'm Marcus, and 3 years ago, I thought I'd found paradise. After 2 decades in military logistics and a divorce that felt like being steamrolled by a tank driven by my ex-wife's attorney, I inherited my grandfather's cabin on Lake Serenity, Minnesota. Population 200, where the biggest scandal was once Mrs. Henderson's cat swiping fish from nearby docks. The cabin's simple, a 1960s A-frame on 2 acres of pure bliss. Every morning, I'd wake to loons singing across glassy water, step onto dock planks smoothed by decades of Minnesota winters, and breathe air so pure it erased years of Army fuel fumes. The place smelled like my youth, cedar, pine, and the crisp tang of lake water at sunrise. For 2 glorious years, Lake Serenity lived up to its name. 47 properties, 8 miles of shoreline, a mix of working-class locals and summer visitors, all abiding by one golden rule: wave when you pass, help when someone's in need, and otherwise keep to yourself. Then Brenda, the human hurricane, arrived. She purchased the lake's gaudiest property, an 800,000 McMansion that looked like a suburban Dallas home plopped into Minnesota's woods. Within days, she'd introduced herself to half the lake from her pontoon boat, always in glaring white capris and cardigans bright enough to guide planes. Sweet as saccharine on the surface, her eyes were as cold as a frozen lake in January. The morning everything shifted. I was sipping coffee that tasted like tranquility on my dock when a loud pontoon engine sliced through the calm like a buzzsaw through velvet. "Greetings, neighbor?" Brenda's voice echoed over the water, as warm as a tax collector's notice. She docked, flashing a grin that could charm a car salesman. "I'm Brenda Carmichael from the Grand Estate across the lake." Grand Estate. Lord help us. She declared she was on official HOA business, waving a manila folder with the flair of a game show host unveiling a prize. The Lake Serenity Homeowners Association has established new aesthetic rules, and your rustic setup doesn't meet our standards. My coffee mug hit the dock's railing with a clang. "What OA?" Her smile tightened, showing teeth. "The one protecting our property values from undesirable elements. That aluminum boat must go, and honestly, your fishing gear makes this place look like a tackle shop blew up." My undesirable element was a 1995 Lund that had caught more fish than her luxury pontoon ever would. The messy gear. My grandfather's handcrafted rod holders and a tackle box older than her. "Mom, this land's been in my family since before you were born. My deed has no HOA restrictions, and it never will." Her mask fell, her voice icy as a winter storm. "We'll see about that, Army Kai." She revved her pontoon like she was escaping a heist, sending waves crashing into my dock, spilling my coffee. The stench of gas and her pricey perfume hung in the air, tainting the pine freshness like a warning. As her mansion's windows gleamed in the sunrise like a predator's stare, my old military instincts flared. This wasn't a neighbor spat, it was a battle, and I felt like I'd just been conscripted. 3 days later, an envelope was stuck to my door like a cursed citation. Inside was a masterpiece of fiction rivaling my ex-wife's divorce demands. Like Serenity HOA violation notice, screamed across fancy letterhead in red ink. Apparently, I owed $500 for failing to uphold dock aesthetics, with 30 days to comply or face escalating fines and property liens. The document looked official: seals, case numbers, legal jargon designed to scare most into paying up. Too bad it was as enforceable as a napkin doodle, but most wouldn't know that. Time for intel. The Cedar Falls courthouse basement smelled of worn leather and faded hopes, dust swirling under fluorescent lights like bureaucratic ghosts. My Army days taught me the best info comes from folks who've handled paperwork longer than I've been alive. So, I befriended Dolores, a 70-something clerk with arthritic hands and sharp wit. "Another OA target, huh?" she murmured, pulling my file. "That Carmichael woman's been here 6 times this month asking about liens and enforcement. Between us, she doesn't know a deed from a donut." My deed was ironclad. No covenants, no HOA power. But my logistics training kicked in. Check what the enemy's doing while they distract you with paper games. Brenda's OA was real, incorporated 18 months ago with just 12 of 47 lake properties. Legally, it had as much control over my land as my neighbor's cat. Digging deeper, ownership records raised alarms. Several lakefront lots had shifted to Carmichael Holdings LLC. A quick search exposed the truth: our HOA queen was running an illegal vacation rental empire, turning quiet cabins into party pads for city tourists. The woman preaching community standards was the real threat to them. My grandfather's wisdom rang true: know who runs the town before you fight it. He'd also taught me that county records, ownership, licenses, restrictions, are free online. It's amazing what you learn when you research instead of threaten. Armed with this, I tested the waters with a Facebook post. Anyone else get HOA violation notices from Lake Serenity? Asking for science. My phone lit up like a 4th of July finale. 8 residents messaged me with their own Brenda nightmares. She'd been terrorizing the lake like a legal tornado, bullying widows over birdhouses and families over mailbox shades. Janet, a retired librarian with CI-level organization, had a binder of evidence. Tom from the marina shared photos of Brenda's bounced checks. Even 90-year-old Florence reported late-night shenanigans at Brenda's family rentals. I started a group chat, Lake Serenity Truth Squad, because fighting crazy deserves a superhero name. That night, an unknown number called. Brenda's voice dripped like syrup laced with poison. Marcus, honey, I saw your cute little Facebook post. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Just asking questions, Brenda. Neighborly interest. Oh, darling, you don't want to mess with me. Her tone turned venomous, the kind that ruins credit scores. I have connections you can't fathom, and I'll report you for harassment and cyberbullying. The line went dead, leaving me staring at my phone, wondering what connections a rental scammer thought she had with local cops. As dusk settled, I sat on my dock, waves tapping wood like a soft drum, breathing air that still smelled of freedom and fish fries. The sunset gilded the Truth Squad's homes along the shore like watchtowers. Brenda's mistake: picking a fight with someone who knew how to gather intel before war. If she thought Facebook drama would scare me, she hadn't researched veterans. We don't back down. We adapt, improvise, and overthink until 3 a.m., plotting 17 battle plans. Tuesday morning, Tom Hendries from County Code Enforcement arrived, looking as thrilled as someone facing dental surgery. His truck rolled up at 9 a.m. sharp, because Brenda believed in punctual complaints. Mr. Marcus, sorry to bug you, but I've got reports of dock violations and an abandoned vehicle. Tom's embarrassment told me Brenda's claims were flimsy. I offered him coffee that didn't taste like government sludge, and we inspected my criminal dock. Tom measured twice, checked his clipboard, and sighed like he'd wasted his morning. Off the record, this is the 23rd complaint from her address in 6 months. She's got the county on speed dial. Then he dropped a gem. Brenda tried slipping him 100, calling it a consulting fee for creative code interpretations. She wasn't just playing dictator, she was testing corruption waters. My grandfather's rule: judge people by how they treat workers and officials. Brenda's tactic: bully or bribe. That night, the Truth Squad crashed Brenda's emergency HOA meeting as observers, about as democratic as a rigged election. Held in her mansion's tacky great room, it looked like a Bige and gold furniture store explosion. Only 6 showed up, mostly her rental empire's property managers, wishing they were anywhere else. Brenda's PowerPoint, safeguarding our community value, featured pie charts and photos, non-compliant properties, owned by those who'd rejected her. Janet took notes like she was chronicling war crimes. During a bathroom break, because nothing says professional like a living room potty break, Janet overheard Brenda's heated phone call. I told you the money's coming. These people are tougher than we thought, but I've got plans. Legal pressure, code enforcement, whatever it takes. The puzzle clicked: Brenda was under financial pressure, using harassment to generate cash. I'd seen this in the army. Stress drives desperate choices. Who was pulling her strings? Her lawyer, the one sending me cease and desist letters, specialized in foreclosure defense and debt collection, not neighborhood spats. So, I filed a harassment complaint against Brenda for false reports and abusing county resources. I also contacted her mansion's owner, Northwoods Property Management, who were very interested in her lease violations and unauthorized rentals. Sheriff's Deputy Rodriguez, tracking lake complaints, pulled me aside after my filing. Off the record, he said, leaning on his cruiser as evening light sparkled on the lake, we're documenting everything. Nothing criminal yet, but she's on thin ice, and we're watching. That night, on my dock, waves mixed with laughter from a real family barbecue across the lake. The air smelled of charcoal and honest talk, still like home. Brenda thought everyone would cave like scared civilians. Instead, she'd united a community that valued peace. If she thought code enforcement was her trump card, she hadn't met bureaucratic warfare. Thursday at 6:30 a.m., my coffee ritual was shattered by police tires on gravel, blue lights strobing my cabin like a warped Northern Lights show. I felt Brenda's glee from her mansion deck. Two cops stepped out, looking as eager as mall cops breaking up a senior flash mob. The younger one, all earnest, believed every 911 call was urgent. His partner, Sergeant Peterson, a grizzled vet, knew this was nonsense. Mr. Marcus, reports say you're trespassing and threatening a female resident. I invited them in for coffee. False accusations at dawn deserve civility. Peterson accepted, probably because county coffee tastes like regret and budget cuts. We have to respond to all calls, he said, settling into my grandfather's creaky chair. But this doesn't smell right. I unleashed my arsenal: deeds, footage, timelines, and Tom's bribery statement. Army lesson: paperwork wins wars. Peterson watched my threatening footage, me helping Florence with fishing gear while Brenda spied like a bad spy novel villain. The trespassing was on a public road, despite Brenda's fresh, private property signs. Sir, Peterson muttered, either you're the politest criminal ever, or someone's pulling our leg. As they reviewed, my phone rang. Dave Morrison, PI and tackle shop guy, had dirt. Brenda owed $47,000 in unpaid HOA fees from Minneapolis. Irony thick enough to spread. She'd lost a lawsuit there explaining her legal bullying skills. She also owed contractors and credit cards, using threats to dodge payments. Her rentals violated 3 zoning laws, with no licenses. The Truth Squad, now 15 strong, shared more: Tom's $3,200 in unpaid doc fees, Brenda's disputed hardware store charges, and a pattern of legal intimidation. Peterson, done with my evidence, shook his head, filed charges for false reports. She's using us as her personal goons, and that ends now. As they left, gravel crunching like victory, Brenda's silhouette vanished from her window. The morning mist carried pine and promise. My lawyer had news that'd topple her house of cards. Arthur Peaton, my grandfather's attorney since the Carter era, worked in an office smelling of leather and cigars, books stacked like legal fortresses. Marcus, sit down, he said, adjusting ancient glasses. We missed something in your grandfather's estate. He laid out deeds, trusts, and papers like a winning poker hand. In 1987, my grandfather created the Northwoods Property Trust. I owned 60% of it, including Brenda's odd 800,000 mansion. My coffee froze mid-sip. I'd been fighting my own tenant. For 3 years, her rent went to an account I didn't know existed. She'd been funding me while wrecking my peace. Arthur showed a lease thicker than a novel, banning unlicensed businesses and neighbor harassment. Brenda had violated 14 terms. She was 2 months behind on rent, with eviction looming. Does she know I'm her landlord? Arthur grinned. Not unless she's smarter than her actions suggest. I could evict her, but that felt like a cheap win. Grandfather's lesson: real power is restraint. Arthur suggested mediation to show I tried diplomacy. If she escalated, he had an eviction notice ready. Leaving his office, I felt like I'd been playing chess while others played checkers. The sun lit Main Street gold, and the universe seemed to have a sense of humor. Brenda, HOA tyrant, was paying her enemy to ruin his tranquility. Sometimes, the best revenge is holding all the aces. Realizing I was Brenda's landlord felt like building IKEA furniture for hours, only to discover the manual was upside down. Instead of a shaky shelf, I'd become my nemesis's landlord. Arthur became my strategist, his office a war room of folders. Landlord-tenant law is like coaching football, he said, tapping his pen. Set rules, enforce them. No emotions. Dave's final report showed Brenda owed us $73,000, had tax liens and a credit score worse than a bad bet. Tell your audience, he said. Public records show liens and licenses for free. Knowledge is power. Janet's binder, a masterpiece of evidence, cataloged Brenda's harassment like a crime novel. The marinas bounced checks, contractors' stories, and Rodriguez's advice. Document everything. Felt like prepping for D-Day. I added cameras with audio, legal in most states per Arthur. We crafted an escalation plan, offer mediation, then reveal I'm her landlord publicly. Janet studied meeting rules like a senator, while Arthur prepped legal notices. Give her a way out, he said. Courts like reasonable efforts. The Truth Squad became a surveillance network, 15 residents sharing Brenda's erratic moves. Businesses backed us with their own evidence. The newspapers sniffed a bribery scandal. In Arthur's office, amid cookies and cigar smoke, we'd built a community that wouldn't bow. Tomorrow, Brenda got one last chance. If not, the nuclear option was ready. Her sabotage started small, a sign she'd gone from petty harassment to crime. She stalked our Truth Squad on Facebook with fake profiles, spreading lies about my instability. Tuesday at 20:17 a.m., Cameras caught her handyman's truck creeping by my dock. Wednesday, my boat was half sunk, drain plug surgically removed, 800 in damage. The cameras recorded him muttering about crazy lady jobs. Rodriguez saw the felony level damage and shook his head. This is serious. Brenda's meltdown escalated. She bullied elderly neighbors, demanding loyalty in her lake war. Florence told her off with sailor-worthy words. Tom banned her from the marina after she screamed at a teen employee. At the grocery store, she accused the cashier of targeting professional women, filming customers until escorted out. Janet's research showed Brenda's patterned disputes, harassment, and evictions across 8 years. My restraining order cited her boat sabotage. Online reviews tanked her rentals, and zoning probes began. Sitting on my repaired dock, waves lapping, I knew Brenda's crimes were her undoing. Cornered, she'd either surrender or double down. She chose the latter, spectacularly. County Commissioner Bill Hayes, 12-year scandal-free, got a visit from Brenda, who slid $5,000 across his desk, calling my cabin environmental hazard. He reported her, sparking a DA probe. She also tried bribing a zoning inspector and a deputy, caught on a wire. Arthur called, barely hiding his glee. Bribery's a felony. She's facing jail. I wanted justice, not her ruin, but she'd crossed into criminal land. The newspaper called it a public corruption story. Brenda's final meltdown at the boat launch, accusing me of stalking before 27 witnesses, drew laughter. Florence shut her down. You're the problem, not this boy fishing. Brenda stormed off, threatening lawsuits she couldn't afford. Arthur urged revealing I'm her landlord at the town council. The meeting in a packed high school gym felt like a championship game. Brenda arrived with a flashy lawyer, her white suit screaming importance. I spoke calmly, folder in hand. 3 months ago, I thought this was a neighbor spat. Here's the truth. Arthur's slides showed I owned her mansion. The crowd roared like a touchdown had scored. Footage of her sabotage and bribery attempts played, the county attorney taking notes. Her lawyers, good faith, claim drew laughs. Florence's good faith, my ass, stole the show. I held up the eviction notice. You chose harassment over respect. As your landlord, I'm giving you 30 days to vacate. The ovation shook the gym. Brenda's conspiracy screams were restrained by her lawyer. The reporter asked my advice. Document, know your rights, don't let bullies win. The headline read, Lake Dispute Exposes Bribery. Brenda fled to Florida in 14 days, leaving damage and a plea deal probation, 200 hours of community service. The Truth Squad became the Lake Serenity Advisory Committee, focusing on conservation and mediation. I used 3 years of rent to start a scholarship fund for kids in environmental science or law. Our fish fry fundraiser, with bluegrass and Brenda stories, is now legendary. Florence's reenactment of her takedown won last year. Healing came slowly, then all at once. Janet and I started dating, bonding over binders and revolutions. I rebuilt my grandfather's shop, teaching kids woodworking. Our lake's conservation is a state model. 3 lessons: check deed restrictions, search public records, use cameras. Our story inspired national HOA fights. Now Janet's sister faces predatory towing in Duluth, same playbook. Sipping coffee as the sunrise gilds Lake Serenity, loons singing I Hear My Grandfather. Standing up for yourself means standing for all. The air smells of pine, coffee, and a community that fought back. Share your HOA nightmares below. Together, we can win. If you love this tale of justice and karma, hit subscribe and the bell for more Nerfo stories where regular folks beat neighborhood tyrants. Thanks for joining HOA Stories, where Karens meet their match. Like, comment, and subscribe for the next wild tale.